who do I want to become? I want to be more of a Christian man. I want to be more of a better business leader. I want to be a better friend. You are the average of the 5 people you allow influence you.
Right. Well, is the thing that's been keeping you safe is actually the thing that's keeping you stuck.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, like I said earlier, it's miserable to be comfortably stuck.
And this is 1% better every day. We talk about this, which compounds to that 36, 37% over a year. So understanding that, I'm like, okay, what do I need to work on today? Do I need to apologize to somebody? Do I need to show up more in kind and compassion and loving? If you don't have that mentality of growth, if we're not growing, then we're dying. And so that's always been embedded in my mind. And so when I reflect back the last decade and just being along in this journey with you, if we haven't killed the old version of us, then we would be stuck in that cog in the wheel or rat race.
And today we have 2 powerhouse women on the show, and we're so excited. This is one of those indulgent, like, I feel guilty that we're recording this because, you know, me and Sean, Level Up and Live podcast, if you listen to, we love to talk about food. We love to talk about optimizing, how to get in the right shape for our minds, bodies, our spirits, souls. And today, man, I don't know if it gets any better than what we're about to get into today. So, man, these 2, they're revolutionizing the way people think about health, wellness, and sustaining lifestyle habits. And first, we got Gin Stephens. I was looking at your New York Times bestseller and USA Today bestselling author. Yeah, I was on Google and looked at your reviews, and it was the Delay Don't Deny had over 13,000 reviews, not purchased. That's just the reviews. I mean, so that's a sort of a ton with that. And then Fast, Feast, and Repeat had over 16,000 reviews. So man, obviously what you're saying, what you guys are talking about on the podcast is just
it's life-changing.
Yeah, it's life-changing, and it's really resonating with people. Otherwise they would not, and they were really high reviews. So, so it's super cool. All about intermittent fasting. We also have to have Sheri Bullock. Thanks so much for being on the show, guys. We're so excited. You've been in the healthcare world for 27 years, and man, you're all about fasting, the health optimization, and balanced living. And man, that's just, you're speaking all of our languages here today. So we can't wait to get into it. So if you want to give us a little bit about yourselves, you know, what listeners can expect, we can't wait to hear it.
Well, I'll get started because I'm longer in the intermittent fasting world by just a little bit than Sheri, but my background is very unusual for someone in the health and wellness space in that I was a school teacher. I taught elementary school for 28 years. I have a doctorate in gifted education, a master's degree in natural sciences, and a bachelor's degree in elementary education. So I am very much a teacher, trained as a teacher, trained to deliver content. And I very much approach the work that I'm doing now with that same teacher mindset. So, you know, why intermittent fasting? Well, I struggled with my weight for so long, and I actually was obese for a while, and I yo-yoed for literally decades, and up and down. Every time I yo-yoed, it was higher up, right? It would go higher up and then down some, then higher up again until 2014. I got off a cruise ship. I'd been on a week-long cruise for spring break with my family, looked at the photos from that cruise, and I thought, that doesn't even look like me. So I pulled my scale down off the shelf, got on, I was 210 pounds. And so I was like, I've got to do something about that. And to make a long story short, I started intermittent fasting. I'd heard about it before. I didn't really understand that it was, how it was different, how our bodies adapted to it. I didn't understand the science behind it. There was so much I didn't know. But when I started that time in 2014, I was just so desperate that I finally didn't quit. So I've been a consistent intermittent faster since 2014. I lost over 80 pounds that I have maintained. I've maintained the loss. So that was just so exciting. As a prior yo-yoer, up and down, up and down, up and down for the first time ever. I have not yo-yoed since I lost the initial weight. And so I just started telling people about it, right? That's what teachers do. We find something, we tell people about it, whatever it is. So I started a small Facebook support group for me and my friends, because people who had been watching me struggle for so long, they're like, what are you doing? I want to do it too. So I started sharing it, and people started joining my group, and then people started wandering in that I didn't know, because remember, it was 2015 by then. And intermittent fasting was not on the tip of everyone's tongue. So there weren't a lot of places for people to go. And people would come in, but there really weren't any books for me to send people to. So in true teacher fashion, I'm like, well, there's really nothing to send them to that has everything all in one place. So I guess I will write something myself. And that was my first self-published book. I published Delay, Don't Deny, Living an Intermittent Fasting Lifestyle at the very end of 2016 as 2017 rolled around. And I actually have the updated version right here. This is the revised second edition, ta-da, that came out in August of 2024. But that little self-published book, just kind of went out there into the world. And again, it was a short book written by a school teacher. And so I didn't know if anybody would read it or if anybody would like it or whatever would happen. I just put it out there. So when people ask me, I could say, read this. And then I'll talk to you about it after you read this. And a funny thing happened. People started reading it and they started telling their friends about it. It wasn't, me out there doing some publicity tour or, making it happen. I was just living my life, running my Facebook group, and people started telling other people about it. And that is when you know something is truly making a difference. So people started telling other people and more people wandered in, and it kind of snowballed from there. And by 2017, I started podcasting with someone who wandered into the group. Melanie Avalon was an intermittent faster and an author. And so we started doing the Intermittent Fasting podcast. And I was on there for years. I don't do that one anymore. But, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then in 2019, I wrote Fast, Feast, Repeat that came out in 2020. And that one came out with a traditional publisher. So that one became a New York Times bestseller. And that was very exciting. So
amazing.
In a nutshell, that's kind of how I got where I am today. And Sheri can tell how we met, which is kind of a funny story. But since all the years have gone by, we've left Facebook as far as our support community goes. We have a community that's off of Facebook, and then Sheri and I teamed up to do a podcast. When did we start that one, Sheri?
2020.
Well, that's not Life Lessons.
The first one was 2020.
We did a podcast called Life Lessons for a while, but our first intermittent fasting podcast, we pivoted in 2023.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've been doing the Fast, Feast, Repeat podcast since 2023. So I've got intermittent fasting stories that is me talking to intermittent fasters. We got 60 something episodes of that one out there. And then Sheri and I do the Fast Feast Repeat podcast where we answer listener questions. And we have 88 episodes of that recorded. So lots and lots of intermittent fasting content out there between the two of us. But we both really, she's got the healthcare background. I've got the teaching background. And we just want to help people understand how to apply the concepts of intermittent fasting to make it into a lifestyle. Because y'all know, we can start and stop things all the time. That's what I used to do. When I was struggling with my weight, I started something, stopped it, started it, stopped it. I was always trying to find the thing that would work. It wasn't until I started intermittent fasting in 2014 and realized it was a lifestyle, and I never quit again, that it was able to change my life. So I think anything that's going to be successful in the long term has to be something that you're willing to do. You have to change what you're doing. And if I quit intermittent fasting and went back to what I was doing before intermittent fasting, I'd be 210 pounds again, 250 pounds. Who knows what would happen? Yes. So it's when I changed my mindset around it, it really, it changed everything.
Yeah. And for me, I started out, I'm 5'10", I'm a bigger female. So, not only have I always been big my whole life, I always was very self-conscious about my size my life. I grew up with very small, fine-boned siblings. So even, I was 3 years younger than my brother, but I was always a head taller than him. I was always bigger than him. And that was hard for me. And unfortunately, it was hard for my parents because they thought that I was overweight my whole life. And from the age of 12, I was put on a diet. I was sent to Weight Watchers at the age of 12. And in hindsight, and looking back at pictures now as an adult who's really healed my relationship with my body, I can see I was never a fat kid. I was athletic. I played sports. I swam. I played softball. I played soccer. I was, a gymnast until I got too tall. So my biggest regret is that I did not love my body soon enough. And because of that, my whole life, I was never considered obese. My height weight was 211, so not much taller than Jen, but I've got 5 inches.
Or not
on
much
her.
weight. Yeah, I'm a lot
Not
taller.
much, I'm
not
not
a lot
much heavier.
I'm like
Jen.
5'5", so.
But whereas Jen, maintained a normal weight, or, weight most of her life until adulthood, I was one of those people who was just chronically dieting from the age of 12. So I did Weight Watchers. I was a Weight Watchers leader. I believed it. I taught it. Until it no longer worked for me. And the difference became, I used to live in sunny Denver. It's 300 plus days of sunshine. Didn't matter whether there was snow on the ground. It still feels awesome outside. And I was out hiking and biking and walking. And then I moved to hot, humid Alabama. And I live pretty rural. And so there's really no places for me to get out and walk and hike. We don't have walkable neighborhoods, and I'm on a county highway. I'd get hit by a car if I tried to go ride my bike out here. And so what changed for me was my activity level. And I think the only way I was ever able to maintain my weight was I stayed very, very, very active. And then the minute that my activity level, substantially decreased, weight just started piling on. It didn't matter what I did. And it was in 2015, I thought, counting calories. I mean, I was counting calories, macros, you name it. I was doing it all. I was doing it all at the same time. And it wasn't until I found intermittent fasting in 2015 that I believe, healed my metabolism. I actually am one of these people who gained weight when I first started intermittent fasting. And I believe it's because I was almost reverse dieting. I stopped counting everything. I simply ate within an 8-hour window. But I made this commitment that I believed in it. I believed the science of it. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. If this doesn't work, nothing is going to work. And I just made the commitment I was going to do it. And I powered through. And within 6 months, I had lost the weight that I had gained when I moved here and got back down. Actually got lower than my maintenance weight ever was with Weight Watchers. And I felt great and I felt freedom and I healed so much. I was able to forgive my body. I was able to forgive my parents. I was really able to forgive the broken system because people just don't understand how weight loss really works. It's deeper than calories in, calories out. And I met Jen in 2018. I had been doing intermittent fasting for a couple of years at that point. I was seeing a little bit of weight regain. Didn't really know why. Started thinking I needed support because nobody in Alabama was intermittent fasting back then. I was all on my own, right? And funny thing now, the hospital I work for does intermittent fasting research studies.
Oh, I love
that. I started looking for support and I found Jen's Facebook group online. I joined a bunch of fasting groups online. I was like, oh, look, there are people out there fasting, I joined Jen's Facebook group. And the thing that's different about Jen from a lot of places out there, a lot of communities out there at that time is they used to say things like, you can have anything under 50 calories in your fast and it won't break your fast. Or you can have lemon in your water and it won't break your fast. You can have, branched chain amino acids. It won't break your fast. You can have diet soda all day long. It won't break your fast. Well, I joined her group and she's the queen of the clean fast, which means nothing by mouth that's going to cause an insulin release because insulin takes you out of fat burning. I was like, this woman's crazy. I can keep drinking my Diet Dr. Pepper during the fast.
So she left.
I left her group. But I was like, nope, not playing that game. And so I was in another fasting group and somebody started talking about the cephalic phase insulin response, which is what Jen had been talking about her group. And I was like, okay, I'm a researcher. This is what I do. I'm like, I'm going to dig up the science. I'm going to see if there's something to this. And I dug up the science and it is absolutely real. And I went back to her group and I applied to join her group again. And I said, I'm sorry. I left. I thought you were crazy. Now I know you're not. Please let me back in. Yeah. And we just became really good friends through that. And I just took a really active role in helping her manage her groups because they were getting really unmanageable and she was trying to do it by herself while teaching school all day. And I was lucky enough to only work weekend nights. So all week long while she was at school, people would be asking questions. And so I'd jump in and start answering questions and looking up research for them. And then Jen one day was just like, do you want to be my official moderator and help me?
Match made in heaven.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That almost wasn't.
Right. I love the way it works out. When Sheri was talking about, the cephalic phase insulin response and what you can have when you're fasting, we came up with the terminology clean fast in my Facebook groups in about 2017. So when I wrote my first edition of Delay Don't Deny that came out, it didn't say the words clean fast because I wasn't saying it yet. So I started saying that, when people were like, well, what can I have? I started saying, keep your fast clean. And so that kind of morphed into the language clean fast, and now probably most people who are doing intermittent fasting have heard people talk about clean fast, dirty fast, whatever. So that terminology is out there and it started from me. But if you think there's something called the clean fast, there must be something called the dirty fast, right? I actually hate the terminology dirty fast because I think you're either fasting clean or you're not truly fasting. If you had to go in for fasted blood work, you wouldn't say, well, it's okay, I just dirty fasted. They were like, no, you're either fasting or you're not fasting. So we use the terminology clean fast, but there is no dirty fast. If you're dirty fasting, you're really low calorie dieting. So what you want to stick to while you're fasting is plain water. I've got some right here. I've got my plain water. You don't want to add flavors to it because of the cephalic phase insulin response that Sheri mentioned. Your brain thinks if you have lemon in there, your brain, oh, that's food, right? A food flavor. Or if you put, flavor drops in there, your brain's like, oh, fruit, I know what that is, So we don't want to be, stimulating our brain to think food is coming in. So plain water, nothing added to it, plain sparkling water, unflavored. You can also have black coffee, unflavored coffee. Don't get your hazelnut and all of that. Because again, your brain is saying hazelnut, that's delicious. No, we don't want delicious during the fast. You can have black coffee and you can have plain tea, real tea. Not all of those, fancy herbal teas that have more of a sweet flavor profile. Because again, the cephalic phase insulin response, and I could get more into the science of this if you want, but it's when your brain detects that sweetness or food is coming in, your brain says, I know what that is. We're going to have a sugar load coming in. Like, let's say you're drinking that Diet Dr. Pepper Sheri used to drink during her fast before she quit doing that. Your brain knows from evolution that all the time, and throughout history, a sweet taste meant you're having fruit or honey or something, and that is going to raise your blood sugar. We know that. Our brain knows that. Sweet taste, blood sugar is about to go up. So it goes ahead and has your pancreas pump out a little bit of insulin in response. That's the cephalic phase insulin response. Well, if it's a Diet Dr. Pepper, is there any sugar load coming in? No. So your brain just did something it didn't need to do because your brain doesn't understand 0-calorie sweeteners. It doesn't understand that you're drinking flavored tea or flavored water. Your brain can't differentiate from that because to them, fruit flavor means you're having fruit and your blood sugar is about to go up. So I really think that some of that cephalic phase insulin response, it leads to some of the metabolic problems people have because their bodies are so confused from the constant taste input.
So what happens if your blood sugars coast along just fine and you feel great, and now you introduce something that's going to cause you to get out this burst of insulin? What's going to happen to your blood sugar? It's going to drop it. And then you're going to feel hungry. So people are like, oh, I can't. I tried intermittent fasting. I was so hungry all day long. Well, either one, they weren't clean fasting and they were stimulating hunger, or two, they didn't give it long enough. Because your body just can't go from being a sugar burner and eating all day, every day to fasting one day and suddenly your body's going to tap into your fat stores. It doesn't happen that quickly, but that's the end goal, is to start tapping into your fat stores while you're fasting. And that's where you start to really feel good in the fast. That's where fasting does become easy. That's where you don't have the hunger. You have stable blood sugars throughout the day. And that's where people really talk about improved mood and, they don't get angry as much. They no longer get hangry. Food is no longer an emergency. Food is no longer like the thing that's always on their mind. It kind of quiets that food noise down a lot.
So about 3 years ago, I resonate so much with what you guys are saying. And this actually inspired me to go through this intermittent fasting because Robin Sharma, have y'all heard of that name?
I know the name.
I don't.
Robin Sharma, monk. Anyways, he's a philanthropist, lives in Italy, and he's got this book out. It's called the Everyday Hero Manifesto. I read this book and it really changed my life with intermittent fasting. He had stated in the book to try it out. I think it's 16-8, right? So 8 hours in the eating window and then 16 hours before the next. So I tried it out because I was in that yo-yo diet. I was 30 pounds overweight. I was 225 for 6 foot. And I resonate with your story, Sheri. as far as I've always been an athlete. I've always been, big bone, big guy. And so, but why am I bigger than all these other people? And so I was working out 7 days a week and I was like, why am I not losing any weight? Why am I not losing any fat? And, a lot of it has to come to your diet, your lifestyle, and nutrition. But I was just spinning my wheels. I was like, I've got to change things up. I've got to reframe that mindset. I heard about intermittent fasting. I was like, what is this? So I started the intermittent fasting journey, the 16-8. And I kid you not, that's where I started shredding all my fat. I ended up losing 25 pounds. And just something magical happened in the brain where I started seeing these results slowly but surely. I started thinking more clearly. I started seeing more clearly. I started feeling better. And then I got to this place where I'd shredded all this fat. I'd got from like 225 to down to like 195. I was like, yes. Well, then it ran into an issue of we trained very hard for like marathons and high rocks competitions, all these really endurance competitions. Guess what I ran into when I was intermittent fasting while training intermittent fasting? I would get migraines. I would be fatigued. I would get exhausted. And so I had to really have been working on that the last couple of years on tweaking my diet. Now I still intermittent fast in my runs, in my 60, 90-minute runs, because I just feel so good. But for somebody listening to this with y'all's experience and y'all's story and what we've shared that can relate to that, and they haven't tried intermittent fasting. One, my first question is, what is intermittent fasting? Because people may be listening to this, they don't have a clue. We've talked about it for 20 minutes now. What is intermittent fasting? And then the second part of that question is, how can they start implementing that into their lives if they haven't tried it before?
And let me ask you real quick before we answer that question. When you were having the headaches, were you fasting clean?
Yes, just water and black coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to troubleshoot through this, because when you're fasting clean and you're fat adapted, you wouldn't expect to have headaches unless you need electrolytes.
That's the first thing I was thinking.
I was not drinking electrolytes, ladies. Yeah. I was not drinking.
And I don't need electrolytes. I am not someone who uses electrolytes. Sheri needs them. That's why I want to talk about that. Because if you're fasting clean and you know you're fat adapted because you've been doing it for over a month and you start getting headaches, are you someone, Sean, who hydrates a lot? Like you drink a lot of water during your fast? See, that's it. We've been trained to drink a lot of water. And like one of my sons, he drinks so much water, I can't believe it. Like he just is sucking it down. So if he were to start fasting, he would definitely need electrolytes. So that would be an indication that you need a clean, fast, safe electrolyte.
That makes sense.
Because your minerals get out of balance if you're overhydrating while you're fasting. Because it like washes out, if you think about it, washing out your electrolytes.
Yep. That's exactly what's happening.
I know it. See, I told you, I'm not a doctor.
You're not my best friend anymore. Jen is.
I'm not a medical professional, but I'm a teacher. And so I can identify problems and help you troubleshoot it. That's what I do. That's my skill set. So I knew that it was electrolytes.
And just so you know, we have a member of our private community who hiked rim to rim the Grand Canyon one day. I can't remember how long it took her, maybe 11 hours. She did it completely fasted, no food whatsoever. And people are like, how can you do that? She's going to run out of energy. Well, so I did a little research into it. Even premier athletes who have like small amounts of body fat on their body, from the research I've done, I've found anywhere from 70 to a premier athlete has between 70 and 100,000 calories worth of stored energy on their body. Mm-hmm. So fuel for endurance exercise is not an issue as long as your body knows how to access that fuel. Right. So
yeah, because the liver holds what? It's the liver, right? Holds like 2,000-ish. Can hold 2,000-ish calories, like a glucose. Like
it does. The liver has the glycogen source.
Do your muscles.
Muscles hold a lot of glycogen. As you're becoming fat adapted. Okay, well, let's backtrack a little bit. What is intermittent fasting? Because you asked that. Intermittent fasting is when you choose to eat and fast intermittently, just as the name. And I didn't name it, right? I'm like, maybe we should have called it, intermittent eating. That might sound better. Because fasting makes people think of like, Jesus in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. And it sounds hard and terrible. And really, we're clustering our eating in a period of time. And we're being intentional about it. And so for me, I live with about a 5-hour daily eating window. That's what feels the best for me. I usually open my eating window around 2 p.m. and keep it open till around 7 p.m. So for anybody who's listening, they're probably going, oh my God, how in the world is I promise you, it's so easy. And, someone else might be thinking, well, I love food. I couldn't do that. I do this because I love food, right?
Mm.
I love food.
Mm.
Nobody likes food more than me. Sheri loves food.
Yep.
Y'all probably love food. But
a lot of people think fasting is deprivation.
no, it's
Fasting
freedom.
is the opposite. It is freedom. It
My
is
book,
freedom to enjoy food, to love your body, and to never diet again.
you see that word right there, fast, feast, repeat. It's not fast, eat a tiny little diet meal, repeat. When we eat to satiety. I'm not counting calories or points or macros. I just eat delicious food every day. I nourish my body well. So I eat within 5 hours most days. There may be a day that I'm super busy and my window ends up shorter. There may be a day where something's going on and I open at 11 because it's, there's a lunch that I'm going to and I want to eat. So it's not like, I'm chained to 2 to 7 or I have to do that. Christmas Day, I open first thing in the morning. And so it's a very flexible lifestyle. So most people use the time restricted eating approach, which is what I just talked about, an eating window where you're eating every day within a certain period of time. For men, my husband, he never needed to lose weight, but he saw me obviously do all the crazy things over the years. And then he saw me with intermittent fasting and he got really interested in the science. He has a PhD in medicinal chemistry, so he's definitely a scientist. And so he was like looking into the science and he decided he was going to do it. So he has an 8-hour daily eating window. Didn't need to lose weight. He does it solely for the health benefits. I like to call intermittent fasting the health plan with the side effect of weight loss. If you need weight loss, then you can find an intermittent fasting approach that works for you. It's a matter of, we've all heard calories in, calories out, right? But we know the flaws with that are that, first of all, when you're counting the calories, what's your body doing with those calories? Like if you ate 1,200 calories of jelly beans, your body is not going to do the same thing as if you ate 1,200 calories of actual beans. Your body isn't going to use the fuel the same way. Your body is going to, be able to use, it takes more energy for your body to process the beans because they have a lot of fiber, right? So we know that it's really difficult to manage what your body's doing with what you eat. And calories out, how active you are. Again, your body can ramp up or down your metabolic rate depending on so many different factors and what you're doing. So with intermittent fasting, you do need to have a window where you can eat until you're satisfied and then a fast that's sufficient for your body to flip that metabolic switch into fat burning. If fat loss is your goal, you need to be able to balance it out so that you're tapping into fat stores because you need to run on those fat stores so that they deplete. Because besides the glycogen we've got stored in our liver and our muscles, we've got a lot of fat stored on our bodies. Even people who are lean, like Sheri said, you've got plenty of fat and that's what it's there for. So it's, instead of thinking of calories in, calories out, think of it as fuel. You are burning the fuel that's already on your body during the fast, whether that's glycogen from your liver and then that's depleted sufficiently. So now you're tapping into your fat stores and your body learns how to do that. That's what's called being metabolically flexible. And I think that's the way we're born. And it's the way we used to be thousands of years ago before the modern era. People who were out hunter gathering to survive, they didn't, when they were hungry, they didn't get so weak they had to lay down. No, they had to have the ability to power through, go out, hunt, gather, whatever they needed to do. That's where the metabolic flexibility comes in. They can go out and find what they need with plenty of energy because we've got the energy on our bodies.
Right.
Our environment is so stacked against
Oh, yeah.
us.
Oh, absolutely.
America is the richest, most powerfulest, most technologically advanced. They've got the best scientists. We've got all the best stuff. And yet we're one of the sickest countries in the world. How is that possible? And you really spoke to it right there. The industrial age kicked in and it was, I don't know if it was Kellogg's or not, but like the 3 meals a day was like, well, this is the new standard that the standard American diet said. Right. Which is just diabolical. If you look at it, it should be criminal with what they're doing and promoting that is what health is, because the body. So the body is very intelligent. Like what you're saying, you just don't do a meal, and the body sorts itself out. Like, and it does it. It's like, no, we don't actually have to do any kind of work. We just skip a meal and it does this naturally.
Can
To
I
me,
share
it's like,
something real quick that sounds
Yeah.
crazy? For my podcast, Intermittent Fasting Stories, last week or the week before, I interviewed a guest who was talking about her husband, who now does intermittent fasting with her. And he had some kind of a fatty cyst on his back that he had had for a long, long time, like maybe decades. And he'd been to the doctor. The doctor's like, it's no big deal. It's just your body has it. It's not dangerous. It's not cancerous. It's just this fatty cyst on your body. You're just going to have to live with it. All right, no big deal. So he started doing intermittent fasting. Do you know his body during the fast, your body's like, all right, what's around? What can I use? It broke that cyst down and it disappeared.
Wow.
That sounds
amazing.
made up.
That's
But
awesome.
the body is supposed to be able to, we're not supposed to have weird growths all over us. Our body is like,
Right.
that's weird. We're going to break that down.
Yeah.
His body was able to do it because he was not eating all the time anymore. He just had a daily eating window. And then the rest of the time when you're fasting, your body can heal and repair and break down junky stuff that isn't supposed to be there.
And we
Yeah.
hear stories of this all the time.
Yeah.
So this is where we say, fasting is beyond weight loss. If a person didn't need to even lose weight, fasting every day is healing something in your body. It is regenerating, it is healing, it is restoring health that you maybe didn't even realize that you needed. And, what's sad to me, you were talking about the standard American diet and this and that. When a person goes in and they are overweight, there's the argument that if you're overweight, you have insulin resistance. You have a degree of insulin resistance. Your body is not working efficiently. And if you have diabetes, and what does the medical society tell these patients? You need to eat 5 to 6 small meals a day. Keep your blood sugar level. Well, do you know what keeps your blood sugar level? Not eating.
That's right.
Fasting
Yeah.
clean,
Fasting
nothing better.
clean.
Opposite advice given. Put
Right.
like the wrong, literally, go smoke a cigarette. That'll help you. Yeah.
So it would
Like,
probably help you more than
Yeah.
that was.
it's
So-
so backwards.
Rather than making a person's pancreas who's already stressed and it's been pushing out insulin to the point that their cells can't really use it, by eating more frequently, that's all you're doing. You're just increasing insulin resistance. Where when you fast and you abstain and your pancreas gets to rest and your cells get desensitized to all that insulin, now you become more insulin sensitive and you're more metabolically healthy. And we see people reverse their diabetes. They are getting off their diabetic medication, things that their doctors told them that they could never do. And we see it every day. We see people who've had scars that they've had forever just disappear. We've had people who, within maybe a month or two of starting intermittent fasting, they have skin tags that they've had just disappear. They wake up and they're gone. We've had people have like just weird other moles or spots on their bodies just go away. And people with chronic joint pain, they notice their joints feel better. It's just the stories that we hear are just mind blowing. And it's why we keep doing what we do. It's why we keep sharing, is because we want to change lives.
So somebody
and it's so powerful to see it happening.
So somebody listening to this that's like, oh yeah, intermittent fasting, it does these things. That's awesome. Like I want to move forward. I want to do this. I want to try this intermittent fasting. Somebody listening to this that's never done intermittent fasting before, what would you recommend them start?
Well, I would have them
Get the
start
book.
with, I would, just because I'm a teacher, right? I have all of it's in there. And so it tells you how to do it. It tells you how to get started. It explains the clean fast. And, it points you to other resources that if you want them. I have other books, like one called 28-Day Fast Start Day by Day, which walks you through the first 28 days if you need it, but you might not need it. Not everybody needs that level of support. I've got like a lot of different tools out there in true school teacher fashion. Just start with Delayed on Tonight, read it. Start listening to the Fast Feast Repeat podcast and to intermittent fasting stories, and know that you are empowered. Whoever's listening, whoever's watching, you are empowered to design the intermittent fasting lifestyle that works for you. Because what I needed as an obese woman with a life, my whole adult life, I had yo-yoed ever since I got home from college and went on my first diet after I put on the freshman 15, and then my weight went up and up and up after that. It's going to be different from someone who's an athlete who wants to, the health benefits of fasting. And we have everything in between. And so it's all a matter of figuring out what works for you. And there is no one size fits all way to do this. We all fast clean. That's a non-negotiable. If you're going to fast, You owe it to yourself to fast clean. And I go into all the whys, why that matters in the book. For anybody who's listening, it's like, well, I just have my cream in my coffee and it works for me, or I put lemon in my water and it works for me. I would challenge you to take the Clean Fast Challenge for 30 days. If you think it works for you, maybe it does. It doesn't. But maybe it does. It doesn't. But try it my way for 30 days. Take the Clean Fast Challenge. Black coffee, nothing added. Plain water, plain sparkling water, actual tea. 30 days.
And I'm going to say,
you will not go back.
This is what we hear from people when we try to sway them to the Clean Fast. The first few weeks, they say, well, this is harder. You say it's going to be easier, and it's not. This is harder. Well, here's why it's harder. If you've been fasting for a
dirty
year,
fasting, which we don't.
which we don't like, but say you've been having, your bulletproof coffee in the morning, and then you stop and you switch to black coffee and you're like, oh, but I feel so low energy and I feel sluggish and I'm starving. Well, think about it this way. Your body has never had a chance to tap into its fat stores because you were providing it fuel. Fat is fuel. So it didn't have to tap into your fat stores because you were giving it fat to burn. So of course you had ready energy, right? Because you gave it to your body. Yeah. When you take that away, then you are going to go through a little adaptation period where you are going to feel hungrier and you might feel a little low energy, but give it that full month and you're going to feel the difference. Yeah. And I also wanted to say, I know some people think, oh, I can't go all day without eating, yada, yada, yada. Here's where I would challenge you. Even if you think I can't do this, start small. Get rid of your flavored coffee creamers. I don't care if they say they're diet. I don't care. Get rid of them. We live in a society where we are addicted to flavor.
We are. Yeah.
And whether it's
designed
mints,
that way.
gum, drinks. I mean, look at the drink aisles at the store. There is every flavor under the sun. We have creamers that you add to soda now.
That's crazy.
So, do nothing different for a month than switch to black coffee, water, or black tea, or plain green tea during the day. And just do that. Just start there. And if you can do that, you can switch to intermittent fasting.
And just start by skipping breakfast. One day you just don't eat breakfast. You push it back. You delay when you open.
Do you ever have anyone or a category of people who follow the protocol and they just have this stubbornness and it just doesn't happen for them? Or do you, because I've heard some people say, man, I'm doing all these things. In my mind, I'm always like, they must be tweaking something. There must be something wrong. Or they're doing something slightly off. Or is there truly someone who's doing it clean and they haven't seen the results? Like, have you ever seen that?
Yeah, there's so many reasons why someone could start intermittent fasting and not lose weight. Let's go back to Sheri's example. She had been dieting hardcore for a long, long time. Started Weight Watchers at the age of 12. So what we know from studying the body all the way back from the Minnesota starvation experiment back in the late 1940s, right after World War II, is that the body slows the metabolism in response to prolonged calorie restriction, right? We also, you may have remembered the Biggest Loser study that came out. It was, all over the news when it came out, and it had to do with the participants on The Biggest Loser had lost so much weight. Y'all remember that TV show?
Yeah.
And the study conclusion found that the people who had lost all this weight on The Biggest Loser, when you compare, we have all these formulas for what your metabolism is supposed to be doing, right? We can, based on your height, your weight, whatever, your body fat, your muscle, it's supposed to be, this is what the calculator says. They found that the people who had gone through The Biggest Loser, if you ran them through the expected formulas, what their body should be burning, what their metabolic rate should be, they actually burned 500 calories less per day after their experience with The Biggest Loser because they had slowed their metabolic rate. Why? Our body loves us. Our body wants us to stay alive. Your body doesn't know you're trying to lose weight because you want to look better in your clothes or get down to a lower number. Your body just says, oh my God, this is terrible. Something's happening. Stay alive, slow the metabolism so we will live. So someone who has been low calorie dieting for a long time, like Sheri had been, she started intermittent fasting, shrunk her window, and put on weight because she was eating more food. Eventually, it worked itself out. But for me, when I started intermittent fasting, I was at my highest ever weight. I had given up. I had been just steadily gaining weight for a while. I even quit weighing myself. So I had probably revved up my metabolism with all the eating that I'd been doing. And my body was like, thank God you're taking a break from this, right? So my body was ready to lose some weight. So could someone start intermittent fasting and not see the expected weight loss initially? Yes. We also have to think about it like, let's say you're extremely insulin resistant and you've been obese maybe for decades. Your body has some healing to do. We have other intermittent fasting approaches, such as alternate daily fasting. Now, I would encourage everyone to start with the daily eating window approach so your body learns how to be metabolically flexible. And then you're going to see what happens with your trend over time. But for someone who's been dieting for a long, long time, or maybe they've been taking weight loss medications, the new ones that you're really eating at a starvation level. These people that are taking these injections, they're eating like starvation level amount for a prolonged period of time. Then they stop doing that and they gain all the weight back, of course, because their metabolic rate is so down. So alternate day fasting is a very well-researched approach. Think about it like 36-12. Like you might fast for 36 hours, then eat for 12 hours, where the 36 hours allows your body to finally tap into your fat stores. And then the 12 hours you're eating, you're going to slightly overeat on that day. And that's going to rev up your metabolic rate. And so that will heal your metabolism. We've had people who, came to our community who knew that they had, broken their metabolism through years of low calorie dieting. And then they found that intermittent fasting healed their metabolism, and especially ADF for someone that's in that situation. So we've got a toolbox full of tools.
Cool. I've never heard of the 36-12. That's
alternate day
cool.
fasting actually was Krista Verde is the researcher. She researched that beginning back in, 2010. It started to come out. If you've ever heard of the 5-2 approach that was big in the UK, Dr. Michael Mosley, he based that on Krista Verde's work with every other day fasting. But she found that it protected metabolic rate. And that's, those days, those 12-hour eating days where you're eating more intentionally, rev up the metabolic rate. Like Sheri was talking about reverse dieting. That's a well-known approach. Someone who's been low calorie dieting for a long, long time could do something called reverse dieting, where they intentionally eat more for a while to boost their metabolism. Well, they're going to gain weight at the same time, but they're going to heal their metabolism. That's where alternate day fasting can do both at the same time.
Then I wanted to just throw something in too, especially because you work with a lot of athletes. We have a lot of people in our community and they're like, well, I'm doing this and I'm running and they're working out 6 days a week and then they can't get their weight to budge. Did you know that when a body is under stress, it lowers your metabolic rate? So if all you're doing is throwing stress at your body through exercise, and we know exercise is good, right? But it is a stressor on your body. And if you are not taking enough down days, or you are not doing any type of restorative exercise in there and giving your body a break, then that your body perceives that as stress, especially just in this go, go, go lifestyle. And a lot of people who are endurance athletes, they're a little bit of adrenaline junkies. I'm one. That's why I work in a fast-paced ER. I like that. I thrive on it. But your body needs rest. It needs relaxation. It needs downtime. And so if you are go, 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 and you're not taking that time, your body thinks you're in crisis and it's going to downregulate your metabolic rates.
I was, oh man, this might have been, I might have been 33. It was probably 8 years ago, maybe 10. I was doing CrossFit 6 times a week and wasn't really paying attention to my diet because I was just burning everything off. I was probably 9 to 10% body fat, and I had my A1C checked, and I think the pre-diabetic is 5.7 or something. I was 5.6. I'm not sure. I can't remember the number. So I was right next to being pre-diabetic, and I'm 10% body fat, and I was fit, but I was always sore, always feeling lethargic. Like I just totally overtrained. So, and I thought I was eating too much sugar, which I probably was, but I think what you're saying is probably it was more burned out. My body just couldn't process. I don't know. I've never really dug deep into that, but there was something there, like with what you're saying, that happened to me, and I have ever since changed that. So
it's all about balance. Fasting, feasting. You got to find the balance that your body needs. And that's why I said before, there's no one size fits all way to do it. It depends on you. I eat every day. I don't do alternate day fasting. I've eaten every day since 2016. But there are a lot of people who need alternate day fasting eventually, once they realize their body needs to have some repair with their metabolism. And so it's all about, like I said, understanding the tools that are available. Food quality, huge tool. When I started intermittent fasting, I was eating the standard American diet. I'm going to be honest with you. And I was standard American diet plus intermittent fasting, and I lost the weight, right? But eventually my body started asking for better foods. Now I eat very differently than I used to eat. I nourish my body well and intentionally.
What's some of your go-tos, like some of your and even snacks as well? Do you have some like go-to snacks, like things that people could?
Well, I love the meal kit deliveries. I don't know if you've ever used any of those, like a Green Chef or a Sun Basket or whatever. So I like those because I hate planning what I'm going to eat and going to the grocery store and shopping for meal. I like the food to come in a bag and you make it. Like last night we had, what did we have last night? Oh, I had this meal. It was like organic chicken and this little side that had like artichokes and red pepper and black olives and a lemon sauce. And I put it over pasta with some feta cheese. So it wasn't low calorie. It wasn't low carb. It wasn't low fat, but it was all delicious and it was organic and satisfying. And that wasn't the only thing I ate all day. That was my dinner. And then I closed my window after that. I might open my window with a meal, or I might open with a hearty snack, maybe some hummus and some pretzels. I really enjoy cottage cheese with frozen cherries.
We both really love beans.
I mean, so good.
I had a bowl of beans the other day and I did a little happy dance and my husband was like, did you just give a happy dance over your bowl of beans? I said, yes, I did. They were delicious.
What makes you enjoy your food again, right? Because you kind of get your palate, you kind of crave it and it's guilt-free because your body's just ready for it, as opposed to just eating and the mundane stuff. It's like you're not enjoying it anymore because it's just stuff in your face.
That's it. And that's people. What we hear a lot is that when you eat all day, you're just eating to eat, right? You're not eating to taste your food and enjoy it, right? Yeah. But when people start fasting, they really get in tune with what foods do they really like. What do Girl Scout cookies actually taste like? And we just had this conversation in our community yesterday. I said, to me, they taste like chemicals and cardboard now. Yeah. I would never eat a Girl Scout cookie.
That's what it is. I think that's the ingredients.
So when you abstain from food, it really refines your taste and you start to really figure out what do you really enjoy. And people who detest vegetables suddenly are like, who am I? I'm craving vegetables.
And that doesn't mean you have to be perfect or like that perfect even means anything. Like last week, Thursday, I go to team trivia with a group of ladies. We have a fabulous trivia team and we go to a pub and I hadn't really eaten meat for a few days. And so I'm like, I am craving a cheeseburger. So I had a cheeseburger and I ate fries and my body was like, I needed that cheeseburger. And no big deal. And no guilt. No guilt. There was no guilt about it. I fasted clean. I ate in my window. That it is what it is.
Sean just took his birthday. You need to tell them about the birthday right there, dude.
What's that, Ewan?
Your birthday. I hadn't had a burger in a long time. And it was Sean's birthday. We went to Bella Green's and he's been talking about this Wagyu burger for about a year. And everybody goes, we had a huge workout before. It was a birthday workout and we went to go eat at Bella Green's and I bit into that burger and it was just paradise. It was so good. But
yeah. Well, guys, we're wrapped up on time. I know this is our jam. We could talk about it all day long, but we appreciate you guys being here today, saying yes to the show. Glad we got it all worked out. Appreciate y'all.
We love being here.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate y'all's time, energy, and effort. And we want to make sure the Level Up and Live community, we support you. So how can our listeners, how can our audience, how can our community support you?
Well, you can find both of us together at fastfeastrepeat.com. That's that link to our website there and our community. You can also find me on GinStevens.com, GIN like gin and tonic and Stevens with a PH. So fastfeastrepeat.com and GinStevens.com. You can listen to me and Sheri on the Fast Feast Repeat podcast. You can also listen to intermittent fasting stories wherever you like to listen to podcasts.
Fantastic.
Very cool. We'll have all the links.
Yeah, we'll have all the links in the show notes as well. So
excellent.
Again, appreciate you guys. Been nothing but invaluable information today. So I know the listeners have gotten a lot of value. So we always end the call with level up and live. So level up and live.
On that, level up and live. Thank you so much, ladies. Brilliant.